Okay, let's talk through Heroic Alleria / Crown of the Cosmos. This fight is similar mechanically to normal. It just adds an extra something here or there. It's definitely much higher in the DPS and HPS requirements department. That's why we're going in on all mains on Monday, because the DPS requirement is pretty high in the third phase, and the HPS requirement in the second phase is pretty high. But let's start going through the mechanics. First of all, we're starting on Demiar, which we did last night, mostly because of his interrupt cast being pretty large raid AoE. We want to kill him first, quickly. If your tank is getting owned by Morium, you can kill this guy first, since it'll eliminate a lot of tank damage, but we're going to opt to kill Demiar first. For the first cast of Silver Strike Arrow, we want 1 to hit Demiar and 1 to hit Virelis. Now, this is going to be dependent on how much damage we do to Demiar on pull, but I think we're going to have enough damage to where he'll almost be dead by the first Silver Strike Arrow cast. So we're going to hit him first. If our damage is not high enough where, let's say he's at like 30% or something, or 40% when the first Silver Strike Arrow comes out, then we do not want to hit Demiar. We want to hit Morium with this arrow. The arrows eliminate the damage buff stacks that are applied by the little void droplets. If all those buffs on the boss go away when it's hit by an arrow, so we don't want that if he's not about to die, right? So our plan for now, though, is 1 arrow hitting Demiar, 1 arrow hitting Virelis. Now, the Grasp of Emptiness mechanic works the same as in normal, but every time it comes out, there's going to be 2 of them. So you can see that here from Liquid's POV. They were a little bit more YOLO with it, but it's the same mechanic. There's just 2 of them, where it spawns on a player, right? And that player runs to the edge, and it pulls back these lasers that shoot through these obelisks. Now, something that we need to be aware of is the fact that when these lasers fire, these obelisks do a little AoE around them as well. We had a couple people die to that as also. So when you pull this string back, just make sure you're not right on top of this obelisk. It's a very small AoE, so you can be pretty close to it, but don't be right on top of it. The way we're going to handle this mechanic is we kind of want to be more closer to the edge of the room throughout this phase, and when this mechanic comes out, we're just going to move as a group towards the middle, right? So all of the lasers will be pointed out, and no one has to worry about getting hit. It also helps with the Void Expulsion mechanic, which is the goop that gets put on the ground. But yeah, we want to be towards the edge of the room, and then every single time this mechanic comes out, we just move towards the middle. If you're targeted, you obviously don't want to move too far from your puddle, but if you're not targeted, you can do a big move and then reset afterwards. For the Void Expulsion, the way this works on Heroic is it will randomly target a player first. So 1 puddle will randomly target a player. So when this is about to cast, our raid leader is going to say, get ready to bait, and we're going to bait this Void Expulsion towards the edge. After this first one is baited, 2 debuffs get applied to random players. And at the end of those debuffs, 2 more Void Puddles drop. So you can see that here. This is the first bait. They kind of baited it bad. It's kind of in the middle of the room. But you can see Wolf Disco and THD have this little circle void debuff. When that debuff finishes, they're going to drop 2 more. When these actually hit the ground, they do pretty significant raid damage. Obviously, this first one, you'll see it did like 20%. But when both of these hit at the same time, it's like 40 to 60% of the health bar for a DPS player. You see there, it just hit everyone. So as this fight goes on, this is like one of the bigger group damage instances, and it's very important in P2 because it overlaps with other things as well. But the way we're going to handle this is raid leader is going to call Void Expulsion in 3, 2, 1. We're going to be baiting that first on the edge, and then the 2 people need to identify that they have the debuff, and at the end of that debuff, they need to be over by the existing goop, dropping their puddle to save space. It's more important in P2 that this happens, like very important in P2 that this happens, but we want to practice it in P1 as well. So, like I said, we're rotating counterclockwise around the room. After Demiar dies, we go to Virelis, which is the circle around him that shrinks you. So whenever you cast that, you have to run out and then run back in. The 2 tanks are going to swap here. So I'm going to be tanking Morium on pull, and I'm going to swap with herbs. He's going to come tank Morium, and I'm going to bring all of my void droplets that I've gathered over here to Varellus to try and apply the damage amp faster on him, just to speed up the phase. The second Silver Strike arrows that we get, one of them needs to hit Morium, and one of them can just go wherever. So both of you want to ideally attempt to hit Morium. If someone's already there, the second person can just aim it wherever. But both need to try and hit him just for consistency's sake, right? And then every Silver Strike arrow after this, we don't want to hit anything. Like I said, it clears the damage amp on the bosses, so we don't want to do that. We don't want to hit anything or hit anyone with the arrows. You see that here. We're dodging. If it goes on a ranged player, they're going to move behind. If it goes on a melee player, they can move forward. Just don't hit anyone with it. So the rest of the phase is pretty simple. We just go around killing the ads, dealing with the puddle drops and the Grasp of Emptiness obelisk mechanic. Once we finish, we phase into the intermission. This first intermission works the same as normal. The only difference is when you get hit by one of these Silver Strike arrows, it gives you this debuff. This debuff lasts for 8 seconds in stacks, and it makes any other arrow hits while you have this debuff hurt a lot. So you're going to get hit by the first arrow that spawns in the intermission. You're going to get this debuff, and you're going to dodge until this debuff falls off, and then you're going to get hit again. I think it's like 2 stacks and then 5 stacks and then 5 stacks is the like timing of when you get hit. But yeah, just watch this debuff. It's a private aura. It's going to be big on your screen. Don't get hit by an arrow when you have it. Try and get hit when you don't. It's that simple. In phase 2, this is the hardest healing check of the fight. There's a lot of damage that goes out here, especially when the Rift Simulacrum gets its shield. But the way we're going to do this mechanic is Alleria is going to start in the center of the room. The Simulacrum is going to start at the edge of the room. We're going to have all range playing towards the edge of the arena with the Rift Simulacrum, and all melee chilling in the middle the whole entire time. Any like small arm range like Evokers or Devoured Demon Hunters will be in the middle, and healers so that they can heal both groups. So first thing, the most important mechanic of this fight is Ranger Captain's Mark. This marks 3 players and shoots a ricocheted arrow from Alleria to player 1, then player 2, then player 3. And you can see a line drawn from Alleria to player 1, to player 2, to player 3. We want at least one of these lines to go from behind the boss to behind the Rift Simulacrum. Now, the way you do this doesn't really matter that much. You can be really specific about it and have someone in the middle, have someone at the boss, have someone at the Rift Simulacrum, but it's pretty quick. So realistically, we just want to be like, okay, who'd it go on? If it's on 3 ranged, 1 range needs to make a hero play and go to the other boss. If it's on 3 melee, 1 melee needs to make a hero play and go to the Rift Simulacrum. If it's on one of the middle people, just keep your eyes out. See if you can help by going to one or the other if we need. But yeah, really, we just need 1 line drawn from the boss to the Rift Simulacrum. There's these little ads that spawn during the fight, during the phase. They can't be killed unless they get hit by this Ranger Captain's Mark. So DKs who are sitting in the middle here, as soon as you see these ads spawn, they're getting gripped into the middle, right? And the tank needs to just make sure that they're lined up with this Ranger Captain's Mark. It works the same as in normal, where every player needs to get hit by the Ranger Captain's Mark if possible as well, because it clears your void debuff. On Heroic, if you don't clear this on every Ranger Captain's Mark, you're going to be taking a lot of damage, and it's very dangerous. So you really want to line up here and get hit by this mechanic. So the puddle drops work the same as I said in P1. It's going to target 1 player, baited. So raid leaders need to count down 3, 2, 1, bait. That's the bait of the first drop. And then 2 more will give, 2 debuffs will go out. And those players need to go right up to the edge of the goop and drop their puddles. So like if it's on 2 range, they need to like be back here in this cubby, drop their stuff and come back. If it's melee, they need to like come in here, or they can even go back far and come back to the boss if we really want to conserve space. Another important thing is we're starting on one of these cracks, because during this phase, there's a bit of a barrier that is shown on each of these cracks. You can see it here. You see there's like this blue barrier on each crack. When you cross these cracks in P2, you get a dot that does pretty significant damage and is kind of scary. So you want to make sure you time crossing this crack with like a minimal damage period during the fight. Like you don't want to do it when the Rift Simulacrum has a shield or something like that, or when the puddles are about to drop and we take a big hit of damage. The tank swap during this fight is whenever the Rift Simulacrum gets a shield, usually it lines up with Ranger Captain's Mark. So the Rift Simulacrum is going to get a shield, Alleria is going to fire Ranger Captain's Mark, and then immediately the bosses are going to swap positions. And then as soon as this tank's debuff falls off, he's going to take the Rift Simulacrum back, and they're going to swap again. The shield also needs to make sure it's broken as well. Ranged, who are out here, need to be hitting prio targeting this Rift Simulacrum the whole time. Especially if you have to like ramp your damage. Breaking the shield is one of the most important things in this phase. So you should be main targeting this Rift Simulacrum, whether it's in melee or right next to you in range. And in melee, you're just hitting whatever's in the middle of the room at the time. But they share health, so hitting the Rift Simulacrum is priority if it's near you, right? The second intermission, again, very similar to normal. The big difference here is, you have the arrow debuff, so you need to make sure you're not getting hit by the arrows while you have this. Also, the rotating balls, it's actually like a wall on Heroic. So you'll see here, we drop in the phase, and there's actually an entire wall of these balls, so we are forced to rotate with this wall. But it's mostly the same. The wall is the biggest change there. Okay, P3. In P3, we're gonna start the phase sort of a little bit towards an edge, and we're gonna be pixel stacked on the tank. This entire phase, you want to be as pixel stacked with the group as you can, because it makes all of the mechanics so much easier. The most important of that being Grasp of the Emptiness. Because our play space is limited, like the arena is broken up into 3 quadrants, and in P3, these Grasp of the Emptiness mechanics come out a lot faster. So it's much easier to solve it if we're all pixel stacked, and when they come out, the group does a big move, and both targeted players just stand on the edge of their circle. And that's going to happen every single time. Every single time this Grasp of Emptiness comes out, we are just kind of ping-ponging around the room, doing big moves, while the players who are targeted stand at the edge of their circles. And you also need to make sure you're not cleaving each other. But just to give you an example of that, we can look at the liquid POV again. You can see here at the start of the phase, we're lusting the beginning of P3 just like normal. And then immediately we get the obelisk mechanic, and we're moving as a group, big move, and the 2 players targeted are staying at the edge of their circle. The other mechanic that happens in this phase is exactly the same as in normal. It's the tether breaks. They just do a lot more damage. They're always on 1 melee, 1 ranged, and 1 tank. Now, melee can be melee healers as well, like Holy Paladin or Mistweaver, and then range can be ranged healers, just like most of these mechanics work in the past. Have worked in the past. The way we're going to be doing it is melee is going to break first, and then ranged, and then tank. Now, this does a lot more damage to the raid compared to normal, so we definitely need to be cautious of doing the breaks too fast. We need to make sure we're looking at raid frames and at health bars, making sure we're not killing anyone with these tether breaks. But yeah, it's mostly the same. We're going to save gating for the second platform to the third platform. This is mostly because there's an overlap where as soon as she starts the ability that covers the platform in goop, she's going to do the tethers. And this happens on the second to third platform move. So we're going to gate as a group from second to third platform, so we're all together for that first tether break on the third platform. Now, I will say this phase is the DPS check phase. It is going to be the tightest DPS check of the fight, with the second phase being the tightest HPS check. So we want to make sure we're optimizing damage here. Don't play super greedy, But yeah, where damage is very important in this phase. All right, that's basically the entire fight.